Good morning and welcome to our introduction to the Advanced Feng Shui for Architecture, Interior Design and Landscape Design program. Some of you are still checking in as you're coming in. So this morning, thank you so much for joining me first of all. And we are going to review a little bit the program that I currently present both in a 12-week live webinar sessions and in 12 video session for those of you that are out of the area and are unable to log in and join us live when we have the classes live. So my name is Simona Mainini. Some of you have attended my classes before. Some of you have attended my forecast last month for 2015. So let's get going here. So some of you that have already attended the classes know my background. This is pretty much nuts and bolts. I didn't started teaching Feng Shui yesterday. I've been doing this for a very long time. It was my passion. I come from an interior design and architectural background. And since I was in architectural school, I was interested in metaphysics and especially how living condition can be improved, not just based on the functionality of the spaces or the color they were chosen or, more or less the core, modern versus a little bit more traditional. I was interested in other things. I always had the feeling there was more to it. And it was even more apparent when I was in physics class and we talked about electromagnetism. It was pretty obvious that everything that we have around us affects us, and so why not the buildings? However, back in those days, I was in architectural school in Italy. Back in those days, nobody knew about Feng Shui. It wasn't a global village as it is today. And I was living in Italy, which is not very familiar with those kind of tradition, or at least it wasn't in those days. And so I didn't know really where to look. And eventually a friend of mine introduced me to Vietnamese kind of Feng Shui. And I thought it was interesting, but it was mostly a bunch of rules and no really technique or law of nature behind it. And I always felt like there has to be a system that can work for everybody, cannot be just based on superstitions or local belief. There must be more to it, because every state you go, every country you go, there are versions of different belief system and superstition, and some of them are more or less based on good sense. But I wanted to find something that was more scientific. And so I started my search, and eventually I met my teacher, who we had a very good professional relationship and a good professional connection. And he became my godfather, and he pretty much taught me a lot in about 15 years that I studied with him. And I had the chance at the time also to do a lot of practice on my own. And I started my company in 1997, primarily as professional consulting. And then, as you will see in a second, people were also interested in knowing more about it. And so I gave a lot of presentation and taught a lot since then. But as I said, my background was primarily in architecture, so I always felt that if building could be designed from inception using Feng Shui, they would make living condition for people exponentially more favorable. And by making people condition more favorable, they can be supported on a health level, they can be supported on a professional level, they can be supported on a career level, they can be supported in a relationship level. And when I'm talking about these things, I'm not just referring to residential, and the way people interact with their spouses or with their children, but I'm also referring to commercial buildings. Now, my first interest was based on creating a more healthy living environment for people, because in Italy, everybody's manic for health. We all want to have good health, and health is the foundation of everything else, which, interestingly enough, is also a Chinese belief. And actually, I discovered there are so many more connections between China and Italy than might appear on the surface. But when I discovered as I went along is the deep effect that designing good Feng Shui building can also have on a financial level. Because obviously, when you deal with people energy and their energy is better, or they have more energy and is better, not only they are physically feel better, but also their mind operates better. And so they can be much more effective on a business level or on a career level. And again, since 1997, I work on every kind of projects, and I acquire a tremendous amount of experience, I think, for one person. Because first of all, I live in Los Angeles, which is a really big city, and with a multitude of construction going on at any time, even during the recessions. And so I've learned to see what happened to building in a prosperity when everybody's wealthy and making a lot of money, and what building still do well in a recession where the financial structure is falling apart and people are having really hard time financially. Still, there are buildings that still do well versus buildings that really don't do well. So that was a great lesson for me. The other great lesson was because I work with building at the existing stage, and so I acquire a lot of experience on how the energy affects people, here of construction orientation, what happened to them, to the male owner, to the husband, to the wife, to the children, how to improve those conditions. And I learned to work with building under development, under new construction. Then I could transfer that knowledge on building under construction. I've seen sometimes people that have studied Feng Shui and they go straight, they all want to consult for building that are under construction, but they do not have the experience of knowing what would happen to them. And so that makes them practically impossible, really, to do a good job, because they really don't know what they're putting their clients through. I remember I was in a conference once, and this gentleman was an architect in Europe, and he showed this house that is designed based on Feng Shui principle. And I'm looking at what he has done, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I hope for the sake of these people that they never get to move in there, because otherwise they will have some serious problem. The building was not very conducive for health. And so that's pretty much what I've observed. And so in the beginning, since 1997, I was asked, ever since pretty much I started my business, I was asked to speak for professional organizations and trade shows. My first presentation was for the American Institute of Architects at the Pacific Design Center. That's where their offices were at the time. And then they asked me back again later, a few years later, and then I spoke a few times for ASAD and for the Building Industry Association as well, and other trade shows like West Week, Neocon West. I was at the Milan International Furniture Show speaking. Imagine, I spoke for Jaguar as well. I've presented with a variety of people. And what I've noticed is there is a deep desire for people to use Feng Shui to improve their life. And especially now that I'm living in California, and we have a tremendous amount of Asian investor. And this Asian investor they all want to make sure that their buildings are built with good Feng Shui. First of all, because they want to invest their money well, which is a very respectable, goal on a business level, but also because I think they really care about the people that are going to be living in those buildings, and ultimately they know that if people that are living and working in those buildings are going to be doing well, they're also going to improve their karma, and is going to, in the end, bring a good return. So I've been teaching at UCLA Extension since 2000 in the Department of Architecture and Interior Design, or Interior Architecture. They changed name along the way. It used to be a certificate program in interior design. Now is a master in interior architecture. And then since 2011, I created this training center. I expanded into a training center, and I create this program, which is our foundation, which is the Advanced Feng Shui for Architecture, Interior Design, and Landscape. It's available in a 12-week format or in a 12-video format, and is a total of 36 hours. And in the course of this program, which stretches over, 2-week times or 12-session times, we investigate different aspects of Feng Shui, and I ask you to do some case studies. One case studies that you will carry with you from beginning to end, which will be your main case study where you practice, and we review these together in class. And then once you become more skilled towards the end of the program, you can have other additional case study that we also review together. And the purpose of doing that is because when I trained with my teacher, we had the possibility, we were doing it in person, and we had the possibility of going out and see buildings together and discuss buildings together. And because we are online, and I wanted to offer the possibility of people to study online with me, so you don't have to spend thousands of dollars getting on a plane, flying to LA, and, stay at a hotel and getting 36 hours of material packed in a weekend, which is probably just going to be overwhelming, because I've been teaching for so long in this architectural program. I felt that pacing the material week after week after week is infinitely more conducive to a proper learning. So hence the format. But I want to be able to offer it online to open the possibility of studying this material with me to people that were not living in Los Angeles. And from the registration roster for today, I can see you guys are a little bit everywhere. I've seen some of you are in Ireland, some of you are in Australia, some of you are in Torrance, California, and Florida and Texas, and everywhere, all over the country. So I feel like I'm accomplishing my goal in doing that. So the foundation course that we offer is this Advanced Feng Shui for Architecture, Interior Design, and Landscape. And it is really designed for people that have a little bit of a background in building planning or, buildings. People that are architects and they are designers, they are the perfect candidate, because I can share with you guys, I can understand, I can relate to you while you design buildings and you renovate buildings. So I can relate to you and I can answer your question. I remember when I went through my training, my teacher did not have a background in architecture and interior design, so I would be the one that needed to initiate asking the question, like, if I do it this way, or if I do it this way, or how would I do it in this situation, how would I do it in the other situation? And that's why, our training stretched over a 15 years period. But now that I have refined that knowledge and that I'm more clear about it, then I can pass it along in a much more effective way. Also, those of you that are realtors, there are quite a few of you here today. Those of you that are a realtor in this program, you can still also learn how to deal with buildings that are you in the process of selling or buying, advising your client to sell or buy, and how to fix them. And it's a little bit different application. it's very similar but a little bit different, because when you're an architect, you're already dealing with a client that has a budget, that maybe is doing a renovation, or they have already a budget established. Maybe sometimes for realtors, your buyers or your seller have a little bit more of a budget and might be a little bit less willing to do big structural changes, but we will learn also how to address these in a smaller scale to still have a result, to still improve the feng shui, to still increase the qi, but on a less expensive option. So the Advanced Feng Shui for Architecture, Interior Design, and Landscape is our foundation course. And then some of the students that have graduated in the past have been really adamant about wanting to learn more. And so I created a Feng Shui Mastery program, and it's comprised of 4 courses, and the learning curve is pretty steep. Each 4 courses is 6 weeks. Or 6 videos for those of you that choose to do it long distance that way. And the material, between the class material and the review of your case study, we end up having about 100 hours of training. And to complete and receive your certificate, you are required to review 100 case study with me. And we are reviewing it together, mostly in class. If you are taking remotely, then we set up times that is included already in your registration fee. We set up times to meet and to review it together. The same thing happened actually with the 12-week program. For those of you that are doing it on video, you would review the video on your own and do the exercises on your own. And then at the end, we will have a 2-hour one-to-one session where I'll review your case studies with you, and I will give you pointers and I answer your questions. Because since you're reviewing the video, we won't be able to do it live like we do with the 12 weeks. So the interaction with the students is very important to me. I could have just type up all this material, put it out there, and let you read it and deal with it on your own. But I enjoyed really working with people that are so passionate as I am about this topic. And I think that I have almost 20 years experience in this field, and I really want to share this with other people that have the same kind of interest. Because I know out there is literally a feng shui jungle. The material is not clear. We do not have the availability that we had maybe 20 years ago when I started. We had a lot more Asian teachers that were traveling here in the States, and they don't do that anymore. And so even the classes that they teach are not comparable to the classes that they used to teach 20 years ago. So I had this advantage of being able to study consistently with the same teacher and practice a tremendous amount of times all this material. And so I really look forward to share it with other people that are genuinely interested in learning it. So let's get started here. So the 12-week class, as I was mentioning earlier, is divided either in, you can have the option of 12 weeks live webinar course with me, or to review it on your own time, like a self-study program in a 12-video online course. And the 12-video online course, as I mentioned, you will review it on your own, and then you would have a couple of hours of meeting with me to review the case studies. And in this course, because we're focusing a lot on learning the basics, I generally recommend people to do 3 to 5 case studies. 5 is a little bit on the higher side, but you will see it's very, very beneficial, because I've been teaching at conferences in Singapore, in Hong Kong, in Europe, conferences, feng shui conferences, and I would have people that come up to me and they show me a Xuan Kong chart and say, hey, I have a problem, this client has a problem, and what do you suggest to do? And I would look at the chart, and the chart doesn't make any sense. Like, I remember this lady showed me this chart and said, you know, my client has cancer, what can I do to help her? And I'm looking at the chart, and the chart is good for health. There's no problem. And I told her, I said, you've made a mistake here. You don't have enough practice. You must have made a mistake. Did you do the compass orientation right? Did you do it yourself? Did you use the right year of construction? And then, you know, after questioning her a little bit, it turned out that it was a basic mistake that she had done, and that had caused the reading to come out completely different. And so after seeing that, I realized practice is so important. Instead of just giving students a ton of theory, we really need to give them more practice. And so that's why I'm encouraging you guys while you're in the program to do at least 5 case studies and review them with me, because you have the benefit of a senior master to be able to tell you, you know, how to prioritize your findings and how to address them. Also, as part of the class, you will get a digital copy of my book, Feng Shui for Architecture, which deals mostly with the design aspects of Feng Shui, and then we would use in the first part of the course. And after you graduate, you will receive a certificate of attendance by our training center, and it will state that you have taken a 36-hour course. And then you will be able to qualify to attend our Feng Shui Mastery courses. I have a lot of requests from people that have studied in other school to study in our training center, but most of them, if you ask me maybe a little bit arrogantly, are expecting to skip the basic and just jump ahead to the advanced material. But the truth is, I really don't know what they have studied, and I really don't know how good their knowledge is. And so I generally do not let them get into my Feng Shui Mastery right away. I prefer them to start from the basics, because I know that the way I teach is different than the way they've been taught before. And I really want to make sure that they do not hold back the class by asking questions that are not appropriate to their level of knowledge. So if you're interested in signing up for this program, unfortunately, the link on the screen right now is not interactive, so you will need to go to our website, fengshuiarch.com, short for Feng Shui Architecture, fengshuiarch.com, and select the training center. And under the training center, there is the option for Advanced Feng Shui Certificate Program. And from there, you will have the option of choosing either the 12-video online self-study version or the 12-week live webinar program. We have a live webinar that is going to start next Tuesday at 10 o'clock, so a week from today. And the class goes from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock. So it's a 3-hour session, because we have 12 weeks and 36 hours of program. So if Tuesday morning is a good time for you to do it, I would recommend you to take advantage of it, because depending on my travel schedule, I might teach in the morning or I might teach in the evening. And this is the first time that we offer it in the morning, because I had a lot of requests from you that are on the East Coast or from other countries. They are from the East Coast or from other countries, and I want to make sure that you don't have to stay up all night to be able to take my class live, because I enjoy the interaction live, so I'm trying to accommodate your schedule as much as I possibly can. Let's see a little bit more in depth what is Feng Shui for Architecture. Why is that what I teach is different than what you might find in books or what my other teacher will teach. Well, Feng Shui is an ancient Chinese natural science to design and build, and particularly also to place building on the land, because based on the orientation that a building has and based on the time that it's constructed and the design that it has, all these characteristics plays a part. And some of them might be just design psychology, but there is also more to it that we are normally not used, that we normally are not used to think about because of our background. It was a little bit of a stretch for me as well when I started, particularly certain application more than others. But I just want to make sure. I think we might have lost audio. Yeah, we had a little bit drop on the audio here, but let me repeat this. The design of buildings and the placement on the land is based on the orientation, the year that a building was constructed, and the design of the building per se. And so if most of us that grow up in the West, we are not used to this kind of thinking because we just take it at face value. But the basics of the concept of Feng Shui is actually pretty much universal. So for those of you that are not familiar with this, let me quickly review it in a nutshell. Everything that exists around us that is alive, like humans or animals or plants, is based on life force energy, and it's called qi in Chinese. And so if you grew up maybe in a countryside or in a not very urban development area, it will be easy for you to understand this. Like there is this cycle of life that exists in the universe, and follow cycles, and the cycle repeat. And so this is the knowledge behind Feng Shui, is that life force energy always creates, it's never created, never destroys, but always transform in something different. And so in the design of the building, if you keep that into account and you know how this cycle works, and then you can take better advantage to design building that will be supportive for the life of people that live there. Basically, pretty much, the more qi you have and the better the quality of this qi is, the more you can create in your life. It's a little bit like a bank account. A Chinese doctor explained this to me one day. He says, you know, qi is like a bank account. The more qi you have, the more you can spend. If you do not have qi, we're talking about the physical body. If your body does not have qi, then you cannot take a loan and go and do things. You cannot run a marathon. You cannot get up every morning to go to work. You cannot do, you don't have the patience of dealing with maybe difficult children or a different spouse or just the schedule, not even being difficult, but just the schedule and the demand of the daily life. However, if you have a better qi, then you can do that and be relaxed and be happy and be comfortable while you're doing that because you do not feel depleted. So that is pretty much what we're trying to do with Feng Shui, is to build and design buildings that offer this opportunity. Now, how does this work? This works in a three-way application, let's say. The basic on Feng Shui, which are explained in very symbolic terms, are pretty much the same that we see in modern science today. and pretty much those are, in the Chinese symbology, they're called the three powers, the Sun Ka, the three powers. So we'll have cosmic Qi, earth Qi, and people Qi. So the cosmic, actually, the traditional name is heavens Qi, does not mean heavens like paradise. It means like everything that is outside of the earth, anything that is out there. You look up and you see the sky, everything around you is considered heaven. So the idea is that the heavens is a yang force and has an effect on the planet, and the planet has a yin response. The planet is a feminine energy, and so it responds to the yang stimulus of the cosmos. And when it does that, it affects, it reverberates the effects on anything that exists in nature. So human beings respond to that, animals respond to that, plants respond to that, and also when we build a building and we tuck the foundation into the ground and we build it up and we put the roof on top of it, it seals inside the Qi that is present on the surface of the planet at that time. And that becomes the energy imprint of the building. And this energy imprint kind of operates by its own rule, is not working the same way that the Qi in a human body works. And this is the purpose of Feng Shui, is to know how this Qi operates and what is the quality of the Qi that we are sealing inside the building and how to address it. And when you have enough experience ahead of time, then you can design building, even that if they're not built yet, you can design them and say, oh, I remember I saw a building that was built that time with that orientation, and this was the best area and that was the worst area. So we're going to put the door here and we're going to put the bedroom there, and this area is not very good, so we're going to put a closet there instead. So this is how we do it. But in order to get to that point, which seems easier than actually is, you really need to build your experience on the understanding of the application first. And so the experience comes also from understanding then the atmosphere, pretty much the atmosphere, to help you visualize it, is where all this cycle of life takes place, and is the length of the effect of the magnetic field of the earth pulling in gases and oxygen that create the atmosphere. It's pretty much the physical manifestation of this life force energy field. And so anything that is in the atmosphere, that lives in the atmosphere, is considered a being of the earth, is part of the earth. So people, buildings, anything that lives in there, it's part of the earth Qi. And so in Feng Shui, we learn the art of dealing with the earth Qi as it relates to the cosmos and how it relates to people. And so this Qi, on a people level, pretty much runs through the meridians and an acupoint that we have in our body. These are very simplified charts. In reality, they're much, much more complex than this. I just want to show you an example for those of you that are not familiar. So these are all channels, like SP would be the spleen, and the B would be the bladder channels that relates also to the sexual organs, and so on and so forth. But there are much more channels that you can see here. But this is just to give you an idea that it is important for us to be in places that allow us to run through our body good Qi, because we are going to run it through our body regardless. This is just the way we are designed by nature, to live by being supported by the life force energy of our environment. So if we live in buildings that have bad Qi, that will affect us. If we live in building that has good Qi, that will affect us. And so the purpose is A, to design and build buildings that have good Qi always good chi. And if we already have buildings that have been designed and built with bad chi, what can we do to correct them so that the chi becomes better to affect people more favorably? That's pretty much, in a nutshell, the application. So the primary concern is health, as we were mentioning earlier, because by giving people better health and make sure that the chi is good and everything works well in their body, then their brain works better also. They're able to make better decisions in terms of their life and in their career, and they're much more energetic and are much more able to have peaceful relationship, happy relationship, which is not just a member of the family, it's with everybody people work with and everybody that surrounds them. And it's also helped them in their career, because if you have your own business and you're dealing with demanding clients, which actually, you know, clients are all demanding, let's face it. We are there to provide the service, and so they demand it. And we are all clients eventually, so we get our share of being demanding as well. But this is the thing is, you don't want to be run out. You want to have energy to deal with everybody in a courteous and professional way. And also, we want to have some energy to use with our spouse, in our private life, with our children, with our parents, with the people around us. And so modern lifestyle take a lot of chi, so we have to cultivate it. So the way to cultivate it and to maintain health is in the air that we breathe. So we really need to have fresh air. So if we're spending a lot of time in your office with air conditioning and no window, remember you have to go out sometimes and get some real oxygen to energize yourself. The food that we eat, so important. Finally, there is this big new food movement where people are becoming more aware that the food that we eat has become, you know, not that good for us. And so we are starting to wake up, even in the West. Well, I'm from Italy, so they're maniac about, you know, the food that they eat. Everything has to be fresh. Everything has to be home cooked, nothing bought from the store, no preservatives, nothing. So that's the way to go. And the environment that we surround ourselves with, and this would be the Feng Shui, the buildings and the environment we surround ourselves with. So this first phrase, this first rationale here is the basics of Chinese medicine, actually. To maintain health, you have to be mindful of the air that you breathe, the food that you eat, and the environment you surround yourself with. Now, the buildings support people, health, wealth, harmony, success, career, by providing a good environment. And that's the purpose of Feng Shui, because it helps by removing those blockages that prevent us from achieving wellness and fulfill our goals. Think about it, you know, if your chi, your own personal chi is your bank account, or your client's chi is their bank account, the more chi you have, the more loan you can take towards a lot of things. If you do not have chi, you cannot do that. I live here in California, and so for those of you that do not live here in California, it's any kind of metaphysical study is very popular, and there is a big hoo-ha about the law of attraction and be able to attract things just by putting it out there to the universe. You know, the universe does work in a mysterious way, but you need to have the energy to put out there to attract what you want. And so Feng Shui definitely has a big component for this, because you cannot attract things unless you put out enough energy to attract them. You work like a magnet. You attract to you what you put out there. So if you cannot put out there enough chi to attract a good career or attract successful relationship, you will not be able to attract them. And I think that the real Feng Shui is a big component. You know, and I've seen Feng Shui taught in many different ways, which have really nothing to do with the way I teach it. And I'm not sure how effective that really is. when I met my teacher, I was very determined in finding the best possible Feng Shui teacher that I could find that was available, that spoke English at least, since I don't speak Chinese. And I was very lucky because I found a teacher that taught the traditional system as it was designed back in the days. Feng Shui was not developed randomly. It did not happen randomly. Feng Shui was developed as a discipline to advise rulers and emperors and landlords on how to create peace and prosperity on the land. Because let's face it, if you look back in Chinese history or any history, all these landlords take a special happiness, special joy into being constant war with each other, trying to overcome each other. However, they know very clearly, the Zhou dynasty, they very clearly spell it out. To maintain the power, you need to have a mandate of heaven. The mandate of heaven, it's a natural system where heavens or the cosmos, you're using the chi of the cosmos to create peace and prosperity in the land. In other words, you take the chi of the environment around you and you use it to create peace and prosperity in the land, because if your people are happy and they're prosperous and they have vision for the future and they live well, you're not gonna have famine, you're not gonna have recessions, you're not gonna have wars, you're not gonna have revolution. And so if you want to have a long-lasting dynasty, you need to be able to create prosperity and peace in the land. And Feng Shui was a big part of it, because these old advisors, the advisors of the old days, had resources available to them that we do not have these days. They were pretty much paid to do that job, to study and to come out with ways, nature ways, to keep prosperity and peace in the land. Not that they always succeed, but if you look back in Chinese history, you have some pretty strong accomplishment. They're quite remarkable. So there's something to be said about that. And so we are learning in our program, we are learning modern application of the most ancient teachings. And I want to just give you a little bit of perspective on how Feng Shui works also, because there is quite a bit of misunderstanding. People think they need to believe in Feng Shui to make it work. That's not true, because we're talking about natural laws. And so natural laws are there and they are in place and operate, whether we are aware of them or whether we like it or not. You cannot sit there and say, I decide that Feng Shui is not going to affect me, or that the energy of the planet is not going to affect me. Well, tough luck with that, because you're part of the earth, and so your body is by design going to be affected. But the way they put it into perspective is, and we're going to start from the bottom here. If you want to have a happy life, you really need to be able to do good deeds first. Be a nice person. Treat people nicely. My mother used to say, mountains stand still, but people move around. And so that's, in a nutshell, is the concept of karma. If you do good to people and you come across them again in this lifetime or another lifetime, they will remember you. It's much worse to remember something bad than it's much easier to remember something bad than something good. And so if you do good deed, you have to do a lot more of those for people to remember you. The next step up to have a happy life is artwork and education. So whether you learn by apprenticeship or by studying in college, education is going to help you having a better understanding of life, and possibly also have a better profession and a better career as well. Then the next step up that we can control is actually Feng Shui. So it's how we set our houses so that we can get the best from all the good deeds and all the hard work and education that we have accumulated so far. As we go up the ladder here, we have luck and destiny. Luck and destiny are not as easy to change. They are not as easy to be controlled because they have to do exclusively with the heavens chi. Remember, we were talking earlier, like we as human beings are attached to the earth, and so when the chi of the earth changes, affects us, and that affects our building, and that we can control because we are part of the earth chi, and so we can work with the Feng Shui to improve our well-being, to improve our luck, to improve our success. When we talk about luck in the Chinese sense, luck here has to do with the energy of the heavens, the energy of the surrounding cosmos around the earth, and so they change. We have absolutely no control on that, and in some cases the fluctuation of chi support us more than other times. Like, for example, if you've seen my presentation about the Feng Shui forecast, which if you missed it, you're welcome to go to my site. You can review the video there. The chi this year is the year of the wood sheep, and so the wood sheep is very different from last year. There was a wood horse. They seem similar, but they're not, because the horse is a fire and the sheep is earth. And so depending on what element you are, one of them might be more favorable than the other. Let's say if you're a monkey, for example, or a rooster, and you have a lot of metal, then the fire of the horse probably was not very good for you because the fire will melt the metal. However, the earth this year is the sheep, and so the earth of the sheep instead will be supportive because the earth produces metal, and so this year will be more supportive for you. This is in a nutshell. So we have no control on the energy of the year. We can just adapt as it progresses. And of course, the top one is destiny. And when we talk about destiny, we are talking about things that we cannot change, things that we are born with, we cannot change. That could be, say, our genetic, our physical appearance, our genetics, our strengths and weaknesses based on our DNA and our body. In the old days also meant the social strata where you were born into, because there wasn't as much mobility as there is now, especially here in the United States. You can create your destiny by, working hard. You can, maybe you're born in a poor family, you can become wealthier. In the old days, it wasn't as easy. People were pretty much locked into social strata that dictate all the way down to the clothes that they could wear, the kind of education they can receive, and it was really hard to move from one level to the next. These days is much easier, but there are still things that we can do, like things that are given to us on a physical level. Maybe we have a weak constitution that tend to get sick very easily. In that case, if you're born with a weak constitution, you have a lot of health problems to begin with, you probably need to be very mindful not to live in a house that is bad for health, because otherwise your natural weakness will become even weaker and you will experience a lot more physical trouble than before. So if you are weak, your health is weak, then you have to live in a house that has a good Feng Shui for health, and that's very supportive for you. And that will help you making the best out of your life. Same thing if you have people that, or if, let's say, you have somebody or you know somebody, maybe your client, that has a lot of financial bad luck, then you want to make sure they do not live in a building that is bad for money. Otherwise, their struggle will multiply, and if you're renting the house to them, they might have difficulty paying your rent. I personally would design every building being good for money and being good for health, so that people can make the best of their life anyway. But I have no control because I cannot work on every building that exists in the world. I would love to do that, but I can't. That's why I teach, so other people can do it. We can multiply our effort. And so if you, or even you yourself, you had financial difficulty and, you know, you take the class and you realize, oh my God, my house is weak for money. What can I do to make it stronger? And then you learn how to make it stronger and you create a better chief for finances, and then your financial get better. But see how it works. There are things that we cannot change, so we use Feng Shui to help support the part that is not working so that it becomes better. And that's ideally is the goal of Feng Shui for the Feng Shui consultants have, is to improve people's life through improving their working and living environment. Same thing if you are a corporate and, or, you know, you have your own business and your offices promote disharmony and maybe disharmony amongst the employee, and it's not good for money, then it's really not going to make you successful. I know in the old days, they used to say that the position of the big cheese, of the most important person, is all you need to make a company successful. But in the old days, they also used to talk about you know, much smaller businesses. Now we're talking possibly about corporations with 200, 300 people. And so it's unrealistic to think that just one person can fix the business for everybody. You really need to be mindful of all your different departments and all their operations and place them in whichever direction will support them the most to be able to do their job. If you are having the sales and marketing department, you want to make sure to put them in an area that promotes relationship and business growth. If you have the administration department and the accounting department, you want to make sure that those are in an area that is good for money, because you want them to be able to continue to receive money. If you have a department, your boss obviously wanted to be in a position of leadership so that they can do a good job in maintaining the leadership, and so on and so forth. These are all small nuances that you learn as you go along, but after you have a clear understanding of what's going on an energy level. So I was mentioning earlier that because of this, there is a much bigger request for Feng Shui today for interior design and architecture that I've ever seen before. Could be here in Los Angeles because of the amount of Asian investors that we are having. And actually, they're not just Chinese, but they're Japanese, Korean, sometimes Vietnamese, require all their building being approved or designed with the help of a Feng Shui master. And that Feng Shui can be applied at the designing stage or at the renovation stage, or it can simply be applied when somebody moved into a new building and they might ask you, help me set up the space with this. I have a lot of interior design students in other programs, in our program and in the mastery program. And so we review all sorts of businesses, all sorts of houses, businesses, renovation, addition, and it's very confusing if you're doing on your own. You do not have somebody that has the right amount of experience. And so this is the main goal of my program, of this program, is that of providing this knowledge to people that need it, people that are in the similar profession, designer, architects, realtors that want to help their client selling their house for the highest price, and sellers that want to, sellers want to sell for the higher price. Buyers want to buy for the lowest price, but we want to make sure that at least they buy good houses. But anyway, I realized that my program is the only one that provides this kind of information or this kind of advice, this kind of discussions, because of my background. And so if you are, one of these professionals and you want to learn Feng Shui for your clients, I'm confident that you will find a lot of answers in this program that you won't find anywhere else. You won't definitely find it in books. So what are we going to learn in this program? There is a more extensive curriculum, the curriculum of the class. It's posted on my website. So if you go on my website and you look under Training Center and then under Advanced Certificate, Advanced Feng Shui Certificate Program, you will see, spell it out, a lot of the things that we cover. But pretty much in a nutshell, we're going to learn how to analyze and correct buildings, and how to match the buildings and the occupant, how the time and orientation of buildings affects the energy and affects the energy of the occupants, and how to correct it. We're going to learn how the design, characteristic features of the design of a building can affect the chi circulation, and how to correct them. Sometimes we can do it, sometimes we need to do it structurally. But we're going to learn both options. We're going to learn how to identify good areas and bad areas, so that we know where people should spend most of their time or less of their time. And of course, everything that I'm telling you, we're also going to learn how to correct it. Because what's the point in seeing something is good or bad if we cannot fix it, right? Then we're going to learn how to use the color and material for these purposes, and also where to place water to increase the chi, and how to maximize the chi in the landscape, and how to deal with renovation and remodeling. And a lot of these things, I'm going to address them in theory, but even better when you do your case studies and you bring your examples, we're going to review them together, and they will provide you so much more practical application. And I really, really highly advise you in doing that, because the theory is always theory, you know, it's always out there. And for each piece of theory that we're going to learn, you probably for the next 20 years, you're going to see different variation on that. And so the more variation you see while you're in the class with me, the less guesswork you have to do for the next 20 years, pretty much. So if you're interested, you need to go to my website, fengshuiarc.com, and select the Training Center options in the menu at the top. And then you click on Advanced Feng Shui Certificate Program. That will take you to the page where you can see, again, the full curriculum. And there are the registration pages both for the video option and for the live option. And the live option starts next week, next Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. So what are we going to talk about in the program? In the program, we're going to learn how to use the basic theories, and the basic theories are the yin and yang theory, the theory of the 5 elements, and the 8 triagrams. Now, the way we're going to learn to do it is much more advanced than you find normally in books, because to really explain them, it's very complicated. I haven't yet come across books that explain them effectively. And that's part of the reason why I start writing books. I did write one book, and then I realized when I get to this point that it was so intricate, and by just writing a book, it would be so dry, and it would not be able to address all questions that people have, which is the reason why I decided instead of teaching live or pre-recorded sessions, but teaching and by the interaction with the student, asking questions and ask clarification, a lot more material can be clarified. So we're going to learn the application of the yin and yang, and the application of the 5 element, and the application of the 8 triagram. Now, the 8 triagram chart that you see on the right here, this one is not to be taken as it is and overlap to a floor plan. This is just a training chart to help you memorize all the association, because you see you have a triagram, and this triagram is comprised of continuous and broken line, which means the broken line is yin and the continuous line is yang. So each of them is different because they have a different percentage of yin and yang in them. So they're all different. Also, each of them is associated with one of the 5 elements. And then each of them is associated with one of the directions. And then when we include the element of time, things become even more complicated. And so the intricacy of all of these elements is so thick that I feel I can only do a good job if I teach you verbally instead of trying to put everything into a book. Because I've seen the book that are out there and they're not very good. So what kind of application are we going to have in this course? We are going to learn how to deal with property settings. So the lot size and shape, the elevation, are we on a mountainside, are we on a flat area, the surrounding features, other buildings, streets. This probably, you have read a lot of this in books because this is the easiest part to cover. And this is also covered in my book, Feng Shui for Architecture. But this is the easiest part. But what we want to see is how is the qi affecting our property. Then we're going to learn about the buildings, the layout of the rooms, how the qi moves inside the building, the design, door, bedrooms, kitchen, the location of these rooms, how is qi affecting those. And the first two steps have to do, they're probably the most immediate to understand. They might have to do, some might say has to do with good sense or with design psychology. I like to say that I have to do with visible qi because they're immediate to understand and have to do with the layout of the building. Then we're going to go into matching people and building. This is already more complicated. We're going to learn how the energy of a people and energy of the building can match together. And if they don't match, what we can do to match them a little bit more and what effect they can have. What are buildings that are more suitable for people and what are buildings that are absolutely not suitable for people. So we're going to learn this as well. And then a big chunk of our class is going to be about the building's energy. Because the building's energy, in addition to matching people with the building, we are also dealing with the building energy. And remember earlier, we were saying how the building, it's built and tucked into the earth and absorbs the qi that is on the surface of the planet at the time. So it has to do with time and it has to do with positioning of the building. And based on that, every 15 degrees, the energy field of a building changes. And so, and every 20 years, the qi of a building changes. And so you have a combination of these two factors. You end up with hundreds of combinations. So there are buildings that are good for money, there are buildings that are good for health, there are buildings that are good for both, there are buildings that are bad for both. So the combination is virtually limitless, and that's a big part of our training, because if we don't get that one right, then chances are that all the others might not be effective enough. And that's also part of the reason why you cannot use that triagram charts on every single building, because every building is really different, and just using the same chart will not give you an accurate reading. And then, you know, based on all this consideration that we do, that we of course learn into the application of yin and yang and 5 elements and the triagrams, then we learn also how to correct them, what color and material to use, where to put the water, how to change the design, how to change the layout of the furniture. These are the things that we learn after we have analyzed the building. So it's a pretty intense program. It's 36 hours, but it's pretty intensive. And so we cover a lot of material. If you can attend the classes in person, it's preferable. What I've done in the past is record the sessions and make it available in between classes. So let's say, you know, you come to class number 2, and then during the week you can review the video of the class number 2, and then when we get to class number 3, all your ideas are clear and your answer are somewhat explained, or you have clear answer for me, which I'll be happy to answer, and then we move on to with the new material. So the video are not going to be standing up forever. They're just going to be in between classes to help you review the material, or if you miss part of the class or all in one class, you can review it. If you can attend in person, I think is always preferable. Or if you can attend in person, take the time to review the class before the following week. It will help you, because as we progress, each class builds on top of each other. And so we need to make sure that you're up to speed to be able to get the most out of it. Okay, this is an idea on how the energy of the building works, and some of them have seen that before maybe. But pretty much, I want to show you two buildings, this one and the next one. And I have a feeling that for now, those of you that are not familiar with this type of application would feel that they both look alike. Well, not really. So this first building, you know, I see a chart like this. I don't know anything about it, but I see a chart like this. This one was built in 1975. It's facing southeast here. It's sitting northwest. I see a chart like this and I say, oh, this building has a potential for health issues. And then depending on the layout of the room, I can say, let's say the bedroom is here. I'd say, oh, this can cause either kidney problems, or for a woman could cause a problem in the reproductive system. And because I worked for a long time with people that were already living in buildings, and I can assure you that anybody that asks for Feng Shui services already has some problem. So sometimes I don't even know anything about them. I just read the building and they are surprised at the accuracy. And so in order to fix this, you know, you need to use the metal element in this section. Or, oh, okay, your home office is in this section. This is a good section, but in order to make it more productive, you perhaps should use some fire element in this section. Or, oh, your door is here. Oh, this 6 and 6 is a very strong metal combination. So if you have a lot of fight and there is a lot of disharmony in the family, then maybe you want to use the water element. So these are some examples of what we learn here. And I'm staying on the light side right now because I don't know what your background are and I don't want to overwhelm you. But there are a lot more details that we'll be able to see once we get into it and you start learning more about it. So this house would pretty much be a house that is not very good for health, but is pretty good for money. But if you look at this house instead, excuse me, you can see this house is similar and yet different. It has the same numbers, but they are in a different configuration. It's built at the same time. The orientation is along the same axis. It's just facing northwest and sitting southeast. And so this kind of house, for example, instead has completely different effects on people than the other one that we just saw, in spite of the fact of being dissimilar. This house is a house that is weak for money. It's not very good for money. People that I've seen living in these houses were always having financial challenges, but one of the most, the strongest characteristics for this house was that of addiction. And the people that I've seen, the different case study that I've seen, the similar house, different countries, different people, and yet the similar pattern would be people that either had addiction to recreational drugs, drinking problem, addiction to gambling, addiction to prostitution, and they all started out financially wealthy when they moved in. Then they moved into this house, they got addicted, and they end up losing all their money to these addictions and having to sell the house because they couldn't afford it any longer. And I've seen that multiple times, people that don't even know each other. And so to me that was clear, and I've seen this with all houses pretty much. You know, this would be the addiction house, and then there are other houses, we call it the divorce house, or there are other houses that we call the shooting house, because people get shot at, or they get wounded by weapons. So there are ways in which the different combination of energy affects people over and over. That's why when people go out and shop for houses, it's really complicated for me to tell them, look for a house that has this or a house that has that. So I always tell them, ask about the people that lived there before, because the imprint of the energy might affect them over time and might affect different tenants over time. So, you know, for example, this house, the first tenant move in and they get addicted, they have drinking problem, they're unable to function, they lose all their money, they have to move out, they sell the house, next couple goes in, they get addicted, I don't know, sex addiction, and just for saying, and then they go through a similar pattern, or gambling, and they go through a similar pattern again, they have to sell the house. So houses affect people with this pattern that they're built with over and over and over. There is no right or wrong, it's just the way things are. And so if you have bought a house, and or your client has bought a house and they need help with that, then in the class I will provide you with the tools of understanding what the problem comes from and how to fix it. And if you're an interior designer and you can take it on a structural level, it's even better, but you don't have to be doing that. And pretty much that's what we learn in the class. By the end of the 12 weeks, if you are consistent and you do your homework so that all the information and all the steps are very clear in your mind, by the end of the 12 weeks, you can probably start already practicing, at least on a smaller scale, for you to acquire more experience. And then if you really want, you know, you can attend the mastery classes and learn even more about it and practice even more. But pretty much by the end of the 12 weeks, you could already be functioning, you'll be able to offer a Feng Shui service already. This is a property that I work with in Austin, Texas, and my client were very much in the Victorian style homes, and so they bought this property and they completely renovated it. It did not look like that. It looked like a ranch house before, and we had several major problems. One of them was that, for example, in the picture see here, these are the steps that lead to the entrance, and this was the height of the ground around it. So there was actually a pathway, a sidewalk that walked to their door, but the land was higher around them, and so you would walk into this ditch literally to get into the house. And they have transformed it upon my suggestion with the landscape person. They transform it to create a larger open area in front. So because when you have a ditch in front of your entrance, pretty much the descending chi becomes yin chi, and so it becomes like a pool of yin chi. You really do not want to bring yin chi into your house, because yin chi is better for burial sites, it's not good for houses. And so in doing this, in creating these open areas in front where the sun, which is very young, can energize it, and then they created this round shape to help pushing the chi open in the front. That was the natural correction for their entrance, their main entrance. And then, you know, the choices of colors and material were based on the orientation of the house and on their personal date of birth to match them with the energy of the house. And so as you can see, you see the house and you don't see right away Feng Shui remedies, because that's not the point. You will never hear me telling you to use crystals or any other kind of, knickknacks, because to me those only scream, I have a problem, I have a bad Feng Shui house and I need some help. The purpose of Feng Shui for architecture is to use the knowledge of Feng Shui and apply it to the design of the building so that they are pleasant, they're comfortable, and they make people happy, and they make their life better. It's not to advertise that they have bad Feng Shui or that they have problems. So again, just to remind you, our program is in 12 weeks. It's 12 weeks long, and it starts next Tuesday morning. So it would be February 17 from 10 to 1 p.m. And we are going to work on a 3-hour increment for 12 weeks for a total of 36 hours. I'm going to give you reading assignments from my book, and I'm going to provide you additional handouts for the classes that are not included in my book. And then we are going to review the case studies together. You're going to conduct it on your own based on the instruction that I gave you. And then in class, we will be reviewing it. So I'm going to have you do homework. And I really will encourage you to do more than less, because the more you do, the more I can share with you and the more you can learn. Since you pay for the class, might as well you take advantage of that. And then, if you decide afterwards, after you're done with that, if you decide that you would like to take the mastery class or some of the mastery class to learn more, you're certainly welcome to do that. Once you graduated from this foundation course, this is really our foundation course. Once you graduate from this foundation course, all the other classes are open to you because you already studied with me on this program. Okay, so just one last time to remind you, for those that came in late, to register for this program. Unfortunately, you cannot click on your screen right now because it's not an interactive website yet. Maybe one day they will. But you can go to my website, which is fengshuiarc.com, and select from the menu Training Center. And then in the page of the Training Center, you select Advanced Feng Shui Certificate Program. And from that page, that will take you to the Advanced Feng Shui page. And then from there, you will have the option for the 12 video classes that you will do on your own in a self-study. And then you meet with me to review your results. Or if you want to do the 12 weeks program, which starts next week, next Tuesday morning. Okay, that's pretty much it for me. That was the last slide of my presentation. And so if you have any questions, guys, you're welcome to ask now. You are currently muted because we have about 20 people. And so to reduce the background noise, I have you muted. But if you have any question, you can either type it in the box that says question, or you can raise your hand on your control board there. You can raise your hand and I will unmute you so you can ask the question live if you wish. Unless I answer all of your questions already and you don't know I have any question for me. Okay. I'm reading here. Okay, so Sylvia here is asking about the mastery class. When is the next mastery class available after this, after the Advanced Feng Shui for Architecture? The mastery class is currently available in videos. So you can, after you complete this program, you can start right away if you want with the mastery class in video. I'm currently finishing the last installment of the first round of mastery class, So I will not be able to teach a live Mastery 1 in the spring, but if I have enough people, enough graduates that wanted to take it live, I can organize one in the fall, depending on the schedule. But if that's not possible, if you want to start in the summer and doing in the spring or in the summer, you can do the self-study with the recording and meeting for reviewing the case study with me. The mastery class, because I require 100 case studies for that program, I really want to make sure you're Feng Shui master by the time you get out. You know your material inside out. And I think it's working because people that are in the mastery program right now, they have done about 50 to 60 case studies. And it's really amazing to see them grow and see how knowledgeable they are becoming. And the more they work at it, they're really, really knowledgeable. They keep me honest. You know, I cannot tell them something wrong now or make a mistake, because they will cut me right away. But they're becoming really, really good. So I think 100 is a good number to make sure that you master that. And I would like really my graduate to be a knowledge when they go out there and practice, that they have done already their homework, and they have a lot of experience. And I'll be always happy to give you good references for that. But pretty much, if you're doing it on the mastery class, if you're doing it in video, you will review the classes, and then you do your case studies, and we will meet 4 times in 2-hour session each. So it's 8 hours per mastery course to review your case study with you. And that will help your growth exponentially. Because instead of trying to guess on your own, you will have, you know, a more senior person that can tell you, look at this is what happened, that's why, or look at this is what happened, that's why. So this is for the Mastery 1. When we do the Advanced Feng Shui for Architecture, we're going to go a little bit slower because you're still in the process of learning the material. And so I want to make sure that every single step, you really understand the full mechanics of how the theory works and how to apply it, and things that do work and do not work. Because sometimes I have people that, tell me, oh yeah, I studied that thing with that teacher and that's the way we do it. And I know that that's really not the way it works, because I've tried it so many times and I know what works and what doesn't. So I can always tell when somebody only knows the theory and absolutely no practice. It takes me about 5 seconds, honestly. So in the Advanced Feng Shui class, I'm going to walk you through every single step, and I'm going to teach you how to prioritize them. And the more practice you do, the more you will absorb this knowledge, and the better will serve you in the applications. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so the next question was, how much time do we need to dedicate to the homework? That's pretty much up to you, how much time you will want to take to work on that. Depends on many homework you do. But generally speaking, if you take good notes during the class and you do not review the video, I would say a couple of hours for the homework, and that will not start until class 4 or 5. But if you want to take the time to review the video, which is 3 hours, it's probably going to be 3 hours for you to review the video, and then whatever time you decide to put on it, more for the for your case studies or for your application. So it's really up to you. How you want to do it. I understand, most of you are not student full-time. You have a you work, you have a practice, and so even if you can only make it to class and be there for the 3 hour of class, I think is a great accomplishment. If you have the time during the weekend to review the video and do the homework, that's fantastic. It's entirely up to you how much time you dedicate to this. When I attended my class, there was absolutely no requirement, but I can see that I was very much into it, and I was doing the homework, I was memorizing the charts, and my level of understanding of the material was, I think, a little deeper than the rest of my classmates at that time. Our class was very small, there were like 5 people. But I think my understanding was a little bit deeper possibly than the rest of the class, which I think that's possibly why my teacher really liked working with me, is because I was really passionate about the topic and I was really working hard on that. So let's see, I guess we went a little bit over time, so let's wrap it up here. If you guys have any questions, you're welcome to email me or call me. On my website, you can find all the information also. And the class will start next Tuesday at 10 a.m. We are currently having an early bird special or early registration offer, which expires tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. And it's about 40% off. So if you're interested in taking the program, I would recommend you to take advantage as soon as possible. The early registration actually expired at the end of the month, last month, but I have extended it to make it available to you guys that are attending the presentation this morning. So please register right away, because it's all automated and it will expire, and so I look forward to see you next week. And I look forward to share with you all that I know about Feng Shui and help you and your clients improving your life and their life with this wonderful, wonderful, very ancient and very complicated knowledge. But I'm going to make it easier for you because I learned to make it easier for myself. All right. Thank you so much, all of you, for attending, and looking forward to see you next week. Take care now. Have a good one. Bye-bye.